Answers. I'd like to call this meeting of the Corporation of the Town of Lincoln to order. Date is June 6th, 2016. And we have regrets from Councillor McPherson. On my left is Councillor Ranjima, Councillor Pachariva, and Councillor McMillan. Far right, Councillor Brunet, Councillor Timmers, Councillor Thompson, and Councillor Foster. On my right is Mr. Kirkopoulos, our CAO, and on my right, Clerk William Colassa. In the back row here, we have Director Hussein from Sport, Recreation and Culture, Chief Hudson, who's our Fire Chief, Director Spadoni from the Finance area, and Director Kathleen Dale in the Planning Department. Councillors, are there any declarations of interest? Councillor Pachariva.
Yes, Your Worship. I'd just like to reiterate my interest that I expressed at our meeting on May 30th with respect to the review of the Niagara Transportation Steering Committee, the Niagara Airport review, because my wife works for Porter.
Very good. Thank you. So noted by the clerk. Anyone else? No? I have a motion. Moved by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Foster, that the minutes of the June 6, 2016 regular meeting of Council be adopted as circulated. Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is business arising from the minutes. Do any councillors have any business that they would like to bring forward at this time? Thank you. Move on to the next motion, moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor Foster. Whereas Niagara Region Policy Plan Chapter 2, Growing the Economy, states the region has a role in tourism. And whereas Section 2A, Tourism, supports the Wine Route, 20 Valley, and the Greater Niagara Circle Route, the Great Lakes Waterfront Trail, and the Trans-Canada Trail. And whereas the Niagara Region Council has passed a motion referring to staff the issue of closing, to discuss the issue. I'll continue on, and I'm going to I think there's a correction here, but I'll read it and we'll see where it goes. Whereas the Niagara Region Council has passed a motion referring to staff the issue of closing the Tourism Information Centre and or developing a new operation plan. No, I have to send this over to Councillor Pachariva to see what the correction would be. I think it's in the third paragraph.
Okay.
It was just a comment that went after.
Was it? Okay.
I think
Wasn't,
that's all.
whatever it was, it
Referring
wasn't
to staff,
wasn't
the
coming.
issue of
Thank you. All right, I'll begin again. Motion moved by Councillor Pachariva, seconded by Councillor Foster. Whereas Niagara Region Policy Plan Chapter 2, Growing the Economy, states the region has a role in tourism, and whereas Section 2A, Tourism, supports the Wine Route, 20 Valley, and the Greater Niagara Circle Route, the Great Lakes Waterfront Trail, and the Trans-Canada Trail, and whereas the Niagara Region Council has passed a motion referring to staff the issue of closing the Tourism Information Centre and or developing a new operation plan that stated that staff be authorized to terminate lease agreements with Tim Wen Partnership at the Grimsby Gateway Centre to close at the end of the third quarter, subject to a staff report to Council outlining a review. That the review consider feedback from the Tourism Summit, that the report outline a new operation plan seeking financial support from the Ontario Ministry of Tourism and the Tourism Partnership of Niagara, that a new lease agreement be negotiated with the landlord, that staff be directed to develop a new operations plan for the Grimsby Gateway Centre. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Lincoln 1, supports in principle the concept of a Niagara Tourism Information Center at the existing Casablanca QEW interchange. 2, supports in principle that Niagara Region develop a new operation plan and a new lease deal to support a Niagara Tourism Information Kiosk at the Grimsby Gateway Center. 3, supports the direction that Niagara Region develop a regional tourism strategy around the 5 trail/scenic drives tourism strategy that will assist in bringing visitors to the 12 municipalities of Niagara. 4, supports staff participation in a regional tourism summit. 5, supports further investigation and asks staff to develop a townwide tourism strategy with all its partners and that this align with the region's strategy. Councillor Pachariva.
Thanks, Your Worship. As you know, the region was talking about getting out of the tourism business and especially terminating their lease agreement at the Grimsby Gateway. The Grimsby Gateway sees over 1 million visitors a year that stop in there, and presently it's our, I guess, eastbound access to Niagara. When I was with the 20 Valley Tourism Association, it was the #1 purveyor of our maps, exceeding the OTIC centers. If you added them all up, that would equal what's at the Gateway. The problem is the lease agreement that's negotiated right now. It's based on square footage like the restaurateurs have there, but the tourism booth has no means to recoup that revenue like the restaurants do. So they need to go back to the owner, negotiate a deal. Talk to OTMPC about supporting it in some way, shape, or form. There used to be 3 travel centers coming into Niagara. From the east, there was one at Fort Erie, which is closed, one in Niagara Falls, and one at St. Catharines. The province has a role to play. And the Tourism Partnership of Niagara, when they were doing their background study, they engaged the Y Partnership from Florida. And these people are in charge of tourism in Orlando, more specifically Walt Disney. They came down and they did an environmental scan of the area, and they said the #1 thing that you need, if you're in any way, shape, or form involved in tourism, is you need to control the messaging. There's the vehicle to control the messaging coming into Niagara. It's just the deal that's struck there now doesn't work. So, you know, do you throw the baby out with the bathwater when things don't work? No, you sit down and you hammer out a deal that's amicable for everyone. And I think it's really a gold mine that's waiting to be unearthed. And maybe it's a different deal too that's struck there with, you know, each one of the municipalities playing a role, or their tourism agencies, by staffing that one day out of a week to get the appreciation for the people that are going through there. And so that's where the genesis of this motion is from, because they wanted to close it a year ago, and they kept it open for 3 months, and it's a reprieve, and now it's back on the table. And if we're talking tourism, if we're talking economic viability, would be the wrong message to send.
Very good. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that has anything? Councillor Foster.
Yes, thank you. I seconded this motion. I think it's really good to get on the table and have a discussion about this, and I admire Councillor Pachariva's zeal in this area. This is good. One of the things that always happens out of these things is that, you know, there will obviously be a request somewhere along the line then, if we're saying this should stay open, are we willing to help fund at some point along the line? Like I would suggest to you that could be a fallout from this as well, or definitely a request is coming down the road. So, you know, we always have to beware the devil in the details as we go down the road with things. But anyway, I pass that through you to Councillor Pachariva, just as asking him what his thoughts are on that.
Councillor Pachariva.
Thanks, Your Worship. In response to Councillor Foster's question, I'm thinking it's more a 3-pronged approach, Councillor Foster. Province with OTMPC, the Tourism Partnership of Niagara, who's the RTO, and their job is to deliver tourism to the region, and as well, the region itself. We already, kick money up to the region. We already pay a disproportionate share for policing and regional transit, but this is one of the areas where, we'll derive a benefit, and we should be saying to the region, not only for us, but for your other 11 municipalities, there's a role to play, and the region needs to take that leadership role. I think it's out of the hands of the municipalities, but they will provide maybe some form of work and also the content for that facility.
Any response?
No, that's good. I back a number of years ago on my trip coming up from Windsor, I stopped at a Niagara booth traveling along, and it was really weird because the only thing that they had was Niagara Falls. I mean, you would swear that's the only thing that's in this part of the country. So I think one of the critical parts of this is if we are going to persuade everybody to do this, that we have to remind them that Niagara Falls is not just everything that's in Niagara. It's important, it's very important, but there's a lot of other things too. So anyway, just to add into where this is going. Thank you.
Councillor Brunet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Councillor Pachariva. I mean, JD, I support everything that's here. It's a no-brainer, all the things that are here in terms of tourism and driving economic revenue. But I guess the obvious question is, are you suggesting that this stay in the Grimsby Gateway Center? And if that is the case, I guess the obvious question is, do you know where the town of Grimsby sits on this case? I know when we were at the symposium earlier this year for cycling, I talked to regional councillor Bruce Timms, and I heard his position on this, but I'd like to know through you where the town of Grimsby sits on this.
Councillor Pachariva.
Yeah, I've had some informal discussions with a number of their councillors, and they support the continuation of the tourism operation there, if it's run in a proper manner. You can't be asking students sometimes to be giving out information if they're not trained properly, and at the same time you can't have it open and then close. Like you have to be all in the tourism business. So a number of them tried to rescue this a few years ago, and they had a lease agreement negotiated with the landlord, and then there was a third party that came in with the ill-conceived plan of putting in some video boards and supposedly generating, countless thousands of dollars of rent to pay, for the overinflated lease, which never panned out, and a lot of those players have now gone away. So, the amount of people that go there and trying to get them then off the highway. The Director of Planning and Economic Development for the town of Grimsby, Michael Siemens, has got some, dynamite information on, getting off the QEW and discover the King's Highway. Highway 8 used to be the King's Highway, still is the King's Highway, and take that alternate route to Niagara Falls. We've had some discussions with Chester and Laura Kowalik, same things. It's about getting the people off of the QEW that's gridlocked on the highway and seeing not only what the town of Grimsby has to offer, but we have to offer the wine route meandering through St. Catharines and down to Niagara Lake and ultimately to the falls. So the ones that I've talked to, Tony, are in support, and they want to be kept in the loop on where we are on this as well.
Councillor Brunet, I can tell you that at the last vote at the region, that Councillor Bentley, Mayor Bentley, supported this facility remain open, as did I, and that was a change for him. But I think that again, it's become a matter of too much haste, and a previous decision was made or almost made. However, Councillor Timms is really, he's staying on top of it, and he's bringing accurate information forward, and we're trying to put it into a package that doesn't put a burden on a few communities. Because in every other area, every state that you go into, they have one of these. So of course, everything costs money, but there has to be a benefit to it, or those volunteers wouldn't even waste their time. So I think we have to, until we get this wrestled to the ground a little bit better, we're going to keep going forward. Do you have anything at all, Mr. Kirkopoulos?
Through you, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to highlight, I think, item 5 of Councillor Pachuriva's motion, and that is developing a town-wide tourism strategy. I know Director Hussein and I have had some conversations considering our town hall is right off the highway and has that exposure, that some of the same information that is offered at the Gateway, for example, be offered here. I mean, we're looking at a redesign. We need to be talking to council on the customer service elements of that. So I think a tourism strategy, I'm looking at an economic development strategy, which is something the region is doing as well, and how each of the local area municipalities fits in is something that we've been discussing as well. So I think this very much dovetails on that, at least as it relates to item 5 of the motion.
And to that point, just prior to coming to this meeting, Mr. Kirkopoulos and I had a meeting with another group who is in the position of being able to assist us with agro-tourism. So I think, you know, many different parts are coming together now that just weren't available before. Councillor Pachuriva.
Yeah, and through you, Your Worship, too, and I'd be remiss, too, and I mean, I forgot to highlight, you know, the Bruce Trail and the Greenbelt cycling route. I mean, there are so many of these either cycling or walking or hiking trails that meander throughout the entire Niagara region. And it just provides another linkage. And I think, too, as going forward, those parochial walls are coming down. And it's not what's best for one, but what's best for all. So, you know, if you can extend someone's stay by a day, you know, because there are so many things to do. And just to follow up, too, to the email that you know, our CAO, Mr. Kirkopoulos, sent today about, and I want to get this, it was Expedia?
Expedia.
About, you know, looking to do a profile on the town of Lincoln as, you know, an alternative to Niagara Falls. So, yeah, you know what? Come to Niagara Falls. It's one of the 7 wonders of the world. But you know what? There's a lot of other things to do. So, but we need to get that information in people's hands, and a knee-jerk reaction without the full, you know, business case on why that facility is so important. 1 million people going through there a year. You can't turn your back on them.
Thank you. Good points. Anyone else? Your pleasure on the motion. The motion's carried. The next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. I think we've all been really hopping around this town in the last few weeks. It's been, it's a pretty busy place. I started out on May 19th attending the Albright Manor Volunteer Recognition Awards, and there were 200 volunteers in that room. I was just absolutely amazed, just amazed. It was a great evening. And then I just thought it might be of interest to the viewing public that sometimes the mayor and councillors actually get away and do something with their families. I went to the cottage for the May 24th weekend. On May 26th, I attended the special farewell that was held for the regional CAO, Harry Schlang. He's now moved on to Brampton. And I think I mentioned before that I'm a member of the selection committee, so we're starting to choose the selection, or the company that's going to actually do the search. Last week, I attended the donation ceremony of the High Barn that was in Jordan. A number of us attended that, and others may speak to it, so I won't go into detail. A good deal, ladies and gentlemen, of what we're doing here, the things that we attend and the interest that we take as members of council are directly related to our strategic directions. Partnerships are a huge part of what we do. We're fostering those partnerships all the time. There's a great advantage to us. We attend meetings around new development. There are more and more investors coming to Lincoln. At least one a week, I would say. The kinds of research that's going on, the kind of interest, searching for property, examining solutions for long-held property. We try to be available to get some of these things completed in a timely manner. I attended on June 1st the regular meetings that I'm assigned to at the region, corporate services, and planning and development. One of the biggest issues on the planning agenda right now for Lincoln is the coordinated review and more the fish habitat mapping, and the 30-meter setback rules are being discussed, and we have more work, and we need to find out what the impact is of that policy on our local farmers. This past weekend, I was able to visit 3 out of the 12 houses that were in the house tour. That was an inaugural event that was sponsored by the Friends of Lincoln History. And I must say, it was a fabulous day and a great, great turnout. The houses were exquisite, all different vintages, and they just were like a picture. It was very, very enjoyable. This past Saturday, a number of us attended the opening of the Gretzinger Pool, and I know other councillors will speak to their attendance there as well. This past Sunday, I attended the 135th anniversary of the Vineland Missionary Church. This was a church that was the result of a fallout back in about 1838 with the First Mennonite Church, the Moyer Church, and eventually became referred to as the Vineland Missionary Church. And there were a lot of old friends there, a lot of people I had gone to school with, some absolutely wonderful music. Councillor Bill Hodgson was in attendance, as was Member of Parliament Dean Allison. Today I attended the opening of the Power Bridge at Deque. That's a pretty important route north-south. And that bridge came in 2.5 months under target and under budget. So we have to thank the Rankin Group for that. There was some pretty interesting strategies, engineering strategies to get that job done as they did. I also attended the Ontario Municipal Fire Prevention Officers Association annual training, which is being held at White Oaks. And of course, our big ladder truck was there, holding up in partnership with Niagara-on-the-Lake, the biggest Canadian flag I've seen in some time. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you again that you live in Lincoln, where everyone strives to be a good neighbor, where children are encouraged to achieve their very best. I think right now, while all the children are able to get out in the parks, and even this small park near the town, the Chambers, you come along the driveway, and all of these little children, about 4 and under, they're out there just running as fast as they can, and it's just great to know that we have these facilities available for every age group in our town. We have no regional councillors report, and I'll start with Councillor McMillan for councillor reports this evening.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. A couple of things that I would like to report to Council. You'll remember that April the 28th, there was a open house at the museum in Jordan, and then the following week, a group of graduation or post-grad students we're working on a thesis program, which was the ground penetrating radar survey of the area at the Jordan Museum. Well, that work is all completed now, and part of the requirements of that program was the students must present in a public venue the results of their work. And that is going to happen on Wednesday of this week. It's going to be held at Niagara College, and I do plan to be there. Our senior management team has also had an opportunity to see the report and comment on it. And what we're looking to do now is find a time when those students will be free and able to come to a council meeting to present all that information. It's been a very interesting, very exciting program, and I know there was a lot of interest around this table when we talked about it originally. So when we have a date for them to be here at the council meeting, then I will let council know. And the other item is, as you referred to, is the ceremony was held last week for the donation of the High Barn, and this is it's a real heritage significant building, and it's very, very nice to go back after the ceremony and on the Thursday, and I went back on Friday morning. The contractors were there, and they were very carefully and very lovingly taking the barn down board by board, and then piling it up and then carting it away, and it was taken across the road into the area behind the Jordan Fire Hall. It will be stored there and then reconstructed at a later date on the museum site. So it's a really historic event, because I don't think that anything like this in the town has ever happened before. We had the Fry House moved, but the Fry House was moved as a building intact. This is the first time that one is being taken down and then being reconstructed. So again, a very interesting experiment going on there. And there are a lot of people involved with it, and a lot of people need to be thanked as well. Briefly, the Phelps Home for one, Val Fleming and the Fleming Foundation, and of course the Volunteer Association for the museum. So it was a very exciting, very interesting, and very historical day for us. Thank you.
Councillor McMillan, since the barn came down, it was determined that, I guess it was after there was a tour of the facilities up on Quarry Road, that there was all this space up there, and that's where the barn is.
They didn't,
That's where the barn
I saw
is.
them leave the grounds.
Yeah, and we all thought that, and then there was some sober second thinking going on about this extra special place that, of course, we know is not really being used to its full capacity, so that's where it is.
Oh, good, okay.
And now we can take-
Carefully and stored carefully.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know whether, Mr. Hussein, do you want to just spend a couple of seconds responding?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we decided to go with the Quarry Road site for the barn because, one, it's a little bit more secure. Two, it'll go into a building that's temperature controlled as well. So the contractor even felt much better about it being in that space because it'll be protected, and if any the pieces, he was worried about maybe pieces going missing. That place is a much better spot, and it helps us to act on another project that we had, which is taking down that sand dome. And so we're thinking that in very short order we'll start working on that project, because even if it went in that sand dome, there would still need to be a cover put on to kind of protect it from the elements. So it was just by chance we were doing a tour and we found that there was enough room, and the contractor thought it was a much better spot for it as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pachariva?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just a couple items, and I promised I would do these for Councillor McPherson, who had to leave for work tonight. Just a reminder that the BIA monthly meeting is going to be held Thursday morning, June 16th at Conversations, and that the BIA is launching a farmers market Going to be starting Saturday, July 9th, 10 to 3, and it's going to be at the old Fleming Library on Beam Street. So they're looking for vendors. For information, please contact Mary Ann at 905-563-2799, extension 330, or Marianne at beamsvillebia.com. Thank you.
Okay. Where else is that going to be advertised? Do you know, Councillor?
There's a meeting on Thursday, so they're going to be taking out ads in the paper. Hopefully, there's going to be a banner much similar to the one in Grimsby, erected across from the Kingsway Plaza, where the fixtures are set up. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, BIA website. Hopefully, these posters that they've created will be adorning all of the shopkeepers' front windows.
Good.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. From the Chamber, as you know, the Mayor's Golf Tournament was very well attended. And the final number on there, and I think you received that by mail today. I don't have you didn't.
Well, I may have, but I haven't.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't want to steal your thunder, but I think it was it's roughly $21,500.
Wow.
And of course, half of that will be for you to decide, a charity of your choice, and the other half goes to the Lincoln Community Fund. That was a very successful golf tournament. I think there was over 130 people in attendance. I was there. It's the first time I ever golfed in my life, and I don't know if I was very supportive to my team, but I did my best.
We're not evaluating you.
Oh, I was evaluated, I'm sure. Also, the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce has a couple of spots available on the board. If anybody's interested in putting their name forward, you have to be an active member in good standing of the Lincoln Chamber of Commerce. You can call 905-563-5044 to nominate somebody or to nominate yourself. I was also at the with you and Councillor Timmers and Councillor Brunet at the celebration of the 10th anniversary of the Alan F. Gretzinger Pool, and I'll let Councillor Timmers talk about that because she was the MC there. She did a very good job. A couple of days later, I attended the public meeting that the region was holding for to discuss the airport issue, whether or not the region will be taking over the two airports, one in Niagara-on-the-Lake and one in Pelham. There was a number of us there coming and going. And Council last week passed a motion that it will not be supporting that for good reasons. There's a survey on the Niagara Region website if anyone wants to go on there and put your opinion in there about how you feel about the whole thing. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Brunet.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you indicated, busy time for all of us. So just a few things to report. May 18th, I attended the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital Community Advisory Committee meeting. So I know a number of people in the community have been attending the open houses. So just to recap and reiterate some of the things that were discussed at the meeting, to bring anyone up to speed that has not been at any of the community meetings. Hamilton Health Science continues to support the redevelopment of West Lincoln Hospital as a top priority. The Ministry of Health and the LHIN have made it quite clear, perfectly clear, that they need to create an integrated plan that will show that all Hamilton Health Science programs and services will work together. This will provide that care at West Lincoln Hospital. The HHS vision for the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital is based on input from many stakeholders throughout the community, including staff, physicians, and partners. One of the main topics of discussion at the community meetings were, going forward, what type of hospital beds were going to be there. This is still something that's being discussed between the physicians and the staff, and that will be communicated as time moves on. The four main areas that Hamilton Health Sciences is continuing to want the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital to look like as it moves through this development is to be able to provide services in a 24-hour emergency care, maintain the maternal and newborn in low-risk births, provide community service, basically same-day service for residents of West Niagara, and provide a community medicine for the health, aging, and seniors care, whether that be specialty clinics such as mental health, internal medicine, geriatrics, advanced diagnostics, whether it be ultrasound or a new proposed CT scanner. One of the things that Dr. Benson talked about at the meeting was that, you know, one of the issues that many hospitals, including West Lincoln, are encountering is with the aging population. You know, there are a large amount of people in their 90s that have no place to go, and basically they're at the hospital. So through this redevelopment, you know, they're hoping they can work with outside agencies. So I certainly reported, you know, that here as a council that we are moving forward with the Dr. Shi development here in the Lincoln Square. A lot of them were not aware of that, so they were really quite excited to hear about that and the fact that that Lincoln is moving forward with a facility for our seniors. The other thing I wanted to point out at the meeting, I think it's, you know, everyone knows that, you know, a lot of people donated to a future hospital when and if that happens. But what continues to happen, you know, is funding through the West Lincoln Hospital Foundation. And just very quickly, in the year of 2015-16, the foundation has committed $867,000 towards funding patient equipment needs at the hospital. It's a fairly large number, almost $1 million, and that comes from things like a golf tournament that took place today, you know, the Santa Claus parade, Father's Day barbecues, craft shows, strawberry teas, and many things that the auxiliary board worked so hard to produce. So I can also tell you that they're really looking forward to the AMO convention in Windsor, when the mayors, Mayor Joyner, Mayor Bentley, and Mayor Easton, we're going to be working with CEO of Hamilton Health Sciences, McIsaac, to meet with the health minister. So they're very, very encouraged about that delegation and what that can bring. So that was with regards to West Lincoln Hospital. On May the 31st, Mayor Easton and I traveled up the highway to attend the Penn West Power Incorporated board meeting, annual board meeting on May 31st at the Pelham Town Hall. As Councillor Rinjema has already suggested, the number of us were at the Gretzinger pool, and it was a great event, and I know Councillor Timmers is going to expand on that. Mayor's Golf Tournament was a great day, well attended, and some really good you know, funds raised there for the mayor's charities. Just in adding to Councillor Rinjema's comments about the public information meeting, you know, just want to thank Councillor Foster and all of council for you know, as a member on the Transportation Steering Committee, you know, I've tried to come back and keep this council abreast of what's happening with that, the funding and the uploading of the airport. So I was really happy to see some regional support there from Councillors Hodgson and Petrosky and Gale, as well as, of course, Mayor Easton. And I think they're going to hear us loud and clear on where we stand on that. And you know, there's been a lot of news about Porter potentially supporting the Niagara District Airport. And I think Porter came out last week with an announcement that they're not supporting it. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Timmers.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. I will comment on the Gretzinger Pool celebration. We were celebrating the 10th anniversary. Most of Mr. Gretzinger's family were there, as well as his brand new great-grandson, who's little Al. That was really nice to see the fourth generation of that family. Wonderful celebration, a beautiful, clean, spotless facility, and yeah, it was a very nice turnout. We had staff from Clavel come. They've been very good supporters for the past 10 years. Donating funds towards programs for children at that pool. So also, I missed the High Barn event, but Councillor McMillan spoke so I don't know, eloquently about it. I almost felt like I was there, so I didn't miss it. I was away last week in OCA, and OCA is the Ontario Association of Committee of Adjustment and Consent Authorities. So I was away in London and at this conference, and the theme was Building Better Bridges. And it was actually quite a conference. I was really impressed. There was probably between 300 and 400 people from all across Ontario, people who sit on Committee of Adjustments in their municipalities. And I spent 2 days in different sessions. I'll just kind of highlight a couple. There's some new MDS guidelines that have come out. And MDS guidelines are in regard to livestock barns or facilities and the distance from residential houses, or there's certain guidelines, and there's been some changes there. I also sat in a really interesting session about stratified 3D severances, and I had no idea what that is. And this is something that you're seeing in very large cities where they're actually severing portions of buildings. You could have a half of a building belonging to someone other than the lower half. So they're horizontal and vertical severances, and I found that just really something, hard to get your head around. But I don't know if that'll happen in Lincoln, but you never know down the road. And the other session I sat in on was community well-being. And that was put on by a really interesting gentleman. He's an expert in crime in neighborhoods and safety in neighborhoods, and how minor variances and different planning things that we do can affect safety in neighborhoods. For example, like setbacks and side yard widths and maximum lot coverages. And I know that's something Councillor Foster would probably like to talk a little more about. The last session I was in, I was also on Bill 73, the Smart Growth for Communities Act. And one of the new recommendations in that Bill 73 was that the municipalities form an agricultural advisory committee. And I found that quite interesting because that's something that we've been discussing recently. So these are all things that I'm looking forward to sharing with the Committee of Adjustment members. And anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I've also been pretty busy. Thanks to Councillor Timmers for taking care of the Gretzinger pool. I had work obligations on Saturday. I did manage to get out to the High Barn dedication as well. It was an excellent. Certainly, it was an excellent showing of multi-generations of families from the area, and how there was a very nice narrative about how things got passed down through the generations and the work that took place. So it'll be good to see that recreated in another spot. I also ended up at the Vineland Research and Innovation Center Greenhouse grand opening. That was attended by an awful lot of people and an awful lot of government officials. Certainly 3 MPs, 2 MPPs, 3 regional councillors, including the mayor. So there was Vance Badaway, Chris Biddle, Dean Allison from the federal end of things, the Minister Leal and MPP Bradley from the province, Chair Caslin, Regional Councillor Hodgson, and the mayor from the regional council. So there was a big announcement as well, certainly by the federal government in regards to investment in the center regarding collaborative greenhouse technologies and commercializing horticultural technologies of $5.76 million going into VRIC from the federal government. So certainly somebody's getting the message that Lincoln is the center of excellence for agriculture. So it was a very great day. I was just so pleased to see everybody sort of embracing that, the concept of how we were going to develop these clusters here. And what else did I do? Oh yes, I had an MPEI meeting this morning. It was rather brief, thank goodness. So it's getting towards summer, so things are slowing down a little bit. So besides that, and actually on Sunday, I popped by Dillon's Distillery, where they had the Juniper event going on. It was a launch of their new plum gin, and they had pairings of different gin and different foods and a DJ, and you could bottle your own bottle of the new release plum gin. It was fantastic. It was quite a good event. Another great, agricultural tie-in industry that we've got here in Lincoln. So it was a lot of fun.
I think it's just perfect. It's just exactly what our community is all about. I was at the Missionary Church singing gospel, and you were down checking out Juniper Gin. Very good. Councillor Foster.
I don't know where to go from that.
Well, you may not have been having as much fun as Councillor Thompson is.
My wife had me putting up walls in the cottage. So
there you go.
Anyway, I want to thank Councillor Thompson for sitting in for me for the May the 17th Economic Development and Planning Committee. My work, like Dave's, has become quite insane over the last while, and it's not going to get any less for the next month or so. So hopefully it will slow down after that. And I want to thank Councillor Njima for holding up the golf team. I had thrown my back out on the weekend, so they were golfing with 3 golfers, and I do apologize for that. But something the doctor said about not golfing, which really bothered me. The only thing I really want to mention is Mr. Kirkopoulos and I met with Professor Jim Dunn last Friday here at Town Hall. And the meeting, Jim is the professor, he's actually the chair and a professor of the Health, Aging and Society at McMaster University. And so we had a good discussion about some of the research that he's doing and what might be possible for us to glean from that within our community. As well, it's an opportunity, I think, for OSUM to do some consideration with this as well. So I appreciate Mr. Kirkopoulos arranging that. One of the more interesting meetings that I've been to in a while, and I'm looking forward to expanding beyond that. Thank you.
Very good. Yes, I met Dr. Dunn as well, and I can see many possibilities having a connection with the person of his background. I think since the golf tournament's been mentioned, that I would like to thank the Chamber for the tremendous effort they put into planning it. The turnout was just excellent this year. I think there were 135 golfers, many sponsors. I think it's the first year that representatives from the greenhouse industry were there. So I think it's really telling that we're bringing agriculture into its own in a number of different venues. And that's very good to see, because they are such an important part of our economy. The money that is mine to share will, part of it will be going to 3 literacy programs, one through Community Care of West Niagara, which relates to youth at risk, the Library Summer Reading Program, and the Adult Learning Center, which provides a number of literacy interpretations, including computer literacy. So thanks again to the Chamber. It always is a great event, but I know it takes just yeoman's duty to pull these things off. We have no delegations this evening. We have no correspondence, and we'll move into reports. I have a motion moved by Councillor Foster and seconded by Councillor Thompson that the minutes of the public meeting of May 17, 2016 be received. Any comments? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Foster and seconded by Councillor Thompson that the minutes of the Economic Development and Planning Committee meeting of May 17, 2016 be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Councillor Foster?
I will defer to Councillor Thompson, who was chairing that meeting that evening. Thank you.
Oh, yes, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. We had, obviously, the public meeting we just passed the minutes for regarding the possibility of rezoning for a distillery and brewery. Seems like a common theme this evening. We also had correspondence from the region in regards to the waterfront investment program. The Niagara region brought forward an employment survey as well. There were a few more reports regarding coordinated land use planning review as well. And that was about the gist of the meeting.
All right. Does anybody else have any comments? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor Njima and seconded by Councillor Pachariva that the minutes of the Finance and Administration Committee meeting of May 24, 2016, including the confidential addendum thereto, be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. Councillor Njima.
Thank you, Mayor Easton. It was a little bit a shorter meeting than some of our finance and admin meetings are, probably because we had a committee of the whole meeting not too long after that and handled a lot of things there. We had, under correspondence, we received and supported a request from the town of Fort Erie asking us to support the implementation of a binational pre-clearance initiative at the Peace Bridge. We supported that because we've, of course, like to see free things up and free transportation across the border as we try to support economic development along our major corridors between Toronto all the way to Buffalo. Under reports, then we received our annual investment report and our annual development charge reserve fund statement. We're in good position with $22.7 million in funds, mostly in regulatory or restricted funds. We talked about whether we should be doing a little more borrowing from ourselves as we did for the LED street lighting program. We had a report, we had a delegation earlier on in the meeting from a fella from Camden who's purchased a building there and like to redevelop it, and he had asked that we consider a little bit of mitigation for his development charges. And that's not something that we typically do. It's not within our policy, but we are planning very shortly to review our development charges policy. And because his particular situation, there may be some implications with heritage there, and we're also talking in the future about giving some incentive, and Councillor McMillan and Councillor Timmers have talked about this quite a bit, giving some incentive to people who have been asked to designate their property as a heritage property. So because these things are in the works, we sort of said, well, we're going to put this aside and we'll talk about it later and when we have a little bit more information on that. We also had a request for relief from development charges from Community Care of West Niagara. And again, we decided to, we put that aside to discuss it a little bit more. And we went into closed session to talk about a matter pertaining to 2 fire halls. And that was our meeting.
Very good. Any questions at all? Your pleasure on the motion? The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor Timmers and seconded by Councillor Brunet that the minutes of the Council Business Planning Committee of the whole meeting of May 30th, 2016, including the confidential addendum thereto, be adopted and the recommendations contained therein be approved and acted upon. This meeting was quite extensive. We actually went to curfew on May 30th, which is quite unusual for council or committee of the whole. The first item on the agenda was the Region of Niagara Transportation Steering Committee regarding the Niagara Airport Review Update, and that's been talked about several times tonight. And the important message that we want citizens of Lincoln to be aware of is that the motion, which was moved by Councillor Foster and seconded by Councillor Thompson, recognized that it's our belief that there's very little intrinsic value to the citizens of Lincoln if we were put in a position to having to support the airport. And therefore, the council supported a motion that that stated that we do not support the regional initiative, which probably won't be voted on until later on in the summer, if not later than that. However, it is important, I think, that you go to the website and have a look and see what information is there. We supported, the Committee of the Whole supported Councillor Rob Foster be nominated to the 2016-2018 Association of Municipal Ontario Board in the Small Urban Caucus category. Councillor Foster has been representing the interests of our community and also other small urban communities, and we believe that he should continue on in this role. We have now formalized our corporate flag policy, which provides easier access for interest groups, particularly those that are in the business of community building. And of course, there are numerous weeks, special weeks that are often under review. And we also want to be able to drop the flag when certain situations warrant it. And of course, we did this the past weekend with the death of Wendy Southall, who was the one of the past chief of the Niagara Regional Police Services. Mr. Kirkopoulos brought us two frameworks. These were for council information. They are operational guidelines, but it is very important for us to know about these so that we can know what to expect as far as the standard of care that staff will be taking in their interaction with the public, because the first one was the public engagement framework and the second one was a customer service framework. And for those of you who are paying attention to how well we are adhering to our strategic directions, our strategic priorities, these are two of those categories. He also brought us a strategy for government relations. We certainly take government relations very seriously, but this formalizes it, lays out the scope of what that strategy would entail. And it basically says that it is our intention to build and maintain relationships with all levels of government and all political parties. And we certainly do that. Many employers have employee recognition awards, particularly those that relate to 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years of service. And Mr. Kirkopoulos brought that forward so that we could begin to re-energize our initiatives in that regard. We spent some time discussing our municipal bylaw enforcement services, what our needs were, and a motion was passed to proceed with the job description and posting for the internal bylaw officer resource as was outlined in the report. We reviewed Council's procedure bylaw, which we had done last in the fall of 2014 after the election. We made some changes to it, which we feel will assist us in our governance responsibilities. Mr. Kirkopoulos presented the work plan update, which again is a reflection of the work that's outlined that relates to the strategic directions. And he utilized a PowerPoint presentation. I think it's fair to say that all of Council were more than satisfied with both the volume of work that's being done and the quality of work and the quality of interaction with the public in order to achieve that work. We moved into closed session at that point. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that this is an important part of the CAO's report, as he has been here since the middle of December. And we need to hear from him from time to time about how well things are going, where he thinks we need to make changes in terms of the organization of our work, and for us generally to have a discussion with him and to give him some guidance about how we wish him to proceed in the short term. So we spent quite a bit of time on that evening talking about many different things, and we adjourned at 11 p.m. Thank you very much. There is no confirmation of compliance with Section 34 of the Planning Act. Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. I have the motion, yes. I have read this motion for the Council Business Planning Committee of the Whole. Your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. Now I know how Councillor Pachariva feels when his report is very detailed. You forget the motions on the table. Sorry, Councillor.
No, right, Your Worship. Very thorough, very thorough.
Thank you. Councillor Brunet, Councillor Timmers, a motion that leave be given to introduce the following bylaws. Number 2016-38, to declare certain lands as part of the public highway system, Prokage Court and St. George's Drive. Number 2016-39, to authorize a site plan agreement, DeHaan Homes, Inc. Number 2016-40, to govern the calling, place, and proceedings of meetings and the conduct of members of council and committees thereof. Number 2016-41, to authorize the acquisition of property from Harold W.M. Smith Holdings Limited. And number 2016-42, to authorize the acquisition of property from Bethesda Residential Holdings, Inc. Any questions? Your pleasure on the motion. The motion is carried. I have a motion moved by Councillor McMillan and seconded by Councillor Pachariva that bylaws number 2016-38, -39, -40, -41, -42 read a first time be now read a second and third time and finally passed, and that the mayor and clerk sign and seal the said bylaw. Your pleasure? The motion is carried. Is there any notice of motion? There being none, are there any announcements? Councillor Thompson, Councillor Brunet, Councillor Rajima.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to let everybody know that the Ward 3 councillors, myself and Councillor McPherson, are having an open forum evening to meet and greet with Q&A. It's Tuesday, June 14th from 7 to 9 p.m. in the meeting room at Fire Station number 4 in Jordan, 3763 19th Street. And in addition to having a chat with us, we're going to have the ability to introduce you to our new CAO, Mr. Kakopoulos, and have a good discussion with him as well. So we invite everybody to come out and have a great evening.
We hope you have a large crowd. There's a lot to talk about at the east end of town. I'm going to take the mayor's privilege. We don't have a place on this particular agenda, but we will the next time around, for councillor inquiries. And I do this because it's a bit of a matter of timing regarding the Sequicentennial. And I wanted to particularly ask Mr. Kirkopoulos, and through him possibly Mr. Hussein, what we're planning. I think we need to become more deliberate about what we're going to be doing here. Time is marching on. Mr. Kirkopoulos, help me out here.
Through you, Madam Mayor. At a really high level, we've begun to have some discussions at SMT. We anticipate having more moving forward. We are looking at coming forward to council and to committee with a subcommittee to look at this particular item. I know that both Director Hussein and I have been having some conversations as it relates to what sort of sesquicentennial projects we want to have in place and what some of our timelines are. So I'm going to let Asad speak to those in more depth.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think one of those key items that we would need to prepare as our potential host site for any of these type of celebrations will be Charles Daly Park. There might be the intent that moving forward with our capital budget, maybe the project for the amphitheater seating to line up with the celebrations. That might mean that we might need to move some funding forward to achieve that project. But I feel that we need to have a fulsome and complete site for this event, and moving some projects forward would be the best way to have that. Also, and as to the request of my staff, they've asked that, yes, we need to start planning the events that is going to happen for this day. They've requested that at least wait until July 2nd of this year so they can get through this Canada Day first, and then, but right away we should start thinking about what the event is going to be and how that site will look for next year.
Now, Mr. Hussein, without being specific, the intention of my question was really to determine what kind of an organizational structure that we're going to require. And I know that some communities already have committees. So can I just reinforce the matter that there would be a community or a subcommittee set up that has members of the public, or you're
Yes,
going to bring
I think-
something forward to sport, recreation, culture?
I think in some way, shape, or form, we would be forming a subcommittee that would have a number of different members from the community, from council, from our staff. It will have to be, a complete thought process on what even the town would look like
Right.
during this event. So, I
Okay,
agree.
that's fine. That's good enough. We'll expect a report through sport, recreation, culture?
Yes.
Thank you. Now, are there any other councillor inquiries? Councillor Nchima.
I don't have a council inquiry, but I do have announcements if we want to.
You haven't, I'm sorry?
I have a couple of announcements.
Okay, Councillor Brunet, I'm sorry, I had you on the list. Do you have a question, do you have a councillor inquiry, or? Thank you, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the first announcement is this Wednesday, June 8th, will be the third and final Grimsby Transit Committee public meeting. I think we've been reporting over the last 2 or 3 months that a number of our councillors, as well as some concerned citizens, Brian Jaworski, have been attending all the meetings. In April, we listened to the town of Bradford. In May, the town of Pelham. And this Wednesday, from 7 to 9 is the formal meeting where Niagara-on-the-Lake Transit and Fort Erie Transit will be reporting, as well as between 6 and 7 o'clock, they will have the Red Cross bus on display out in front of the Grimsby Town Hall in Livingston. So, this is a great opportunity for residents and councillors and concerned people who are interested in where transit in Lincoln and West Lincoln and Grimsby is going in the foreseeable future. So great opportunity to get some really informed information. The second thing, Madam Mayor, is I'd like to take quite a few minutes here actually to talk about something that Councillor Pachariva and I have been working on over the last 6 or 7 months, if I may.
Tell me is it
Active transportation.
active
the upcoming workshop.
transportation? I'm trying to, I almost feel that you need an appropriate amount of time, you need 5 or 10 minutes to do this.
Probably.
Yeah, okay. All right, please go ahead. I think that what I'm beginning to see, and this is not any responsibility of Councillor Brunet's, but many of the councillors have additional pieces to their portfolios as counselors, and this one is really growing its own legs, isn't it? So we certainly need to give you some time, but probably in the future, we need to do this so that you have an allotted time, I think. Please go ahead.
I appreciate that, Madam Mayor. I think one of the most important messages we want to get across, in camera tonight is that we have a workshop. So just briefly, about 6 months ago, Councillor Patrieva and I had the opportunity to sit down with someone who's very involved in active transportation in the region and the town of Grimsby between Christmas and New Year's. So that morphed into some conference calls whereby our CEO, Mike Kirkopoulos, Asad Hussain, our Sports and Recreation Director, as well as Jackie Gervais, from a health promoter from the region of Niagara, as well as Paul Young, who's a facilitator for many of the municipalities in Lincoln, or in the region of Niagara, have been involved. So, one of the things that Councillor Patrieva and I, quickly realized, out of 12 municipalities in Niagara, Lincoln is one of 3 that does not have an active transportation committee, one of 3. Out of 12. There's 3 remaining out of 12 that do not have active. So that was kind of something that really resonated with us. And then we went to the symposium, in Niagara Falls, and, we start talking about complete streets and share the road. And again, municipalities across the region are being recognized, whether it's Grimsby or Pelham, for their work on Share the Road and active transportation and complete streets. So, with the mayor's support, we are trying to champion this and move this down the road. So recently we've had some conference calls with the CEO and these people, and to that point, we are trying to organize a workshop which is going to take place. I believe invitations are going to be going out this week. I'll let our CEO, expand on that. But we have a workshop coming up at the Fleming Center on Tuesday, June the 21st. It'll be from 6 o'clock till 9 o'clock. The purpose of this workshop will be to share ideas about improving active transportation in the town of Lincoln, to learn more about what is happening in Lincoln to improve active transportation, to describe a long-term vision for active transportation in Lincoln, to develop some long and short-term strategies to accelerate active transportation through a second workshop, which will be on July 26th, and then hopefully to begin to establish an active transportation advisory committee of the Lincoln Town Council. So, obviously, some of the things that are the benefits of active transportation, it goes without saying: health and well-being, economic benefit, sense of community, sense of pride, environmental benefits, safety in traffic, and a social benefit. Some of the people that we're going to be reaching out to at this meeting, and I know CEO Kirkopoulos has pledged to have 75 people at this first workshop. So elected officials, whether it be this council or regional council, the staff in the town of Lincoln, planners, engineers, the park and recreation staff, our trail and park maintenance staff, road staff, people in the private sector, whether it be citizen advocates, tourism, 20 Valley, economic development people, business people, people who have a benefit from active transportation and the supports that will be implemented, the Niagara Regional Police Services, and all local groups, again, whether it be a representative from our farming community, our wineries, schools and parent councils, senior groups, cycling clubs, walking groups, running groups, neighborhood watch leaders. So again, this is about active transportation. This isn't just about cycling. It's about walking on our trails and hiking, canoeing in our harbors and our lakes. So, I know Councillor Patrieva and I thank the mayor for the support in trying to move this along. We look forward to the workshop on June the 21st, and I thank CEO Kirkopoulos for kind of taking the lead on these conference calls over the last 2 months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Foster, a comment?
Yes, just concerning the date, and I sent a note to the CAO earlier today as well. First of all, I happen to be out west, but I'm immaterial to it. I completely support where this is going, but there's an event that's going on that evening that I think is going to be taking an awful lot of the people out of the equation. Kathy McNiven is retiring from the chamber, And there's an event that has been put in place approximately 3 months ago for that. So, and again, this harkens to the fact that we do not have a master list showing what's going on within our community.
Right.
But I think this is a huge opportunity missed, and I would suggest very strongly, if this meeting continues, that you might want to schedule another one, because I think a lot of the people that are going to be at that particular event are the ones that we want to be attending this. The business community will be attending Kathy's event. The tourism group will be attending Kathy's event. I suspect Councillor Renchima will be attending that. So it's like, there's just, I think this is an unfortunate quandary with dates. So if I may throw that out.
That's fine. Councillor Brunet?
Yeah, I appreciate Councillor Foster's comments. Fully understand his concern. It was our concern right from day one. The problem we have is we're working with facilitators and people from the region. They're also working with other municipalities across Ontario. We recognize this was a conflict. We tried to change it to 3 or 4 other dates, which were all conflicting. So certainly appreciate, it's our concern as well. As I indicated earlier, there will be 2 workshops, the one on the 21st, another one on July the 26th. We tried to move it, believe me. I recognize that we will be missing some people on that June 21st, and appreciate your comments.
I think, Councillor Brunet, one of the important messages is that I think you know that the support is here around the horseshoe, and between the two, let's hope that that you get the turnout that you want. You've both done a tremendous amount of work. There's a lot of moving parts to this, and it really has grown. Councillor Brunet, I think as things go along, when you're ready to report on the workshops, let's have a look and see where the best place is on the agenda so you can spend a good time and we can have a good debate.
Thank you, Madam
If
Mayor.
that's needed, thank you. All right. Oh, yes, Councillor Renchima, sorry. I'm bound to ignore you, it would seem.
That's because I played bad golf, isn't that why?
Not at all.
I deserve it. I deserve it. So I want to thank Councillor Brunet for talking about active transportation and Councillor Pachariva and both of your work that's gone into it. I asked, when the email went out today about that workshop, I asked our CAO, what exactly is active transportation? So he sent me the definition that's been adopted by the region, and it refers to people-powered transport, such as walking, cycling, using a wheelchair, inline skating or skateboarding. It means reaching your destination, work, school, store, friends, using human energy and not a motor, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to say it's also an accessibility issue because, wheelchairs are mentioned right in there, so it's very important. I wanted to announce that there's a job fair put on by the Employment Help Center through the Chamber as well, and also the town is a partner in that. And that's Wednesday, June 22nd from 3 to 7 at the Fleming Center. I already mentioned that the Chamber is accepting is looking for new board members. That will be, the nominations close August 12th. I don't think I said that. And Councillor Foster mentioned, yes, that Kathy McNiven is retiring, and her dinner, her retirement party is at the Beacon. It's, yes, June 21st. Tickets are $50. They always put on a really nice dinner there. We're going to be sorry to see her go. And yes, I will be there, and there'll be many people there, and I'm happy to hear that there's going to be another active transportation meeting that I can go to after that.
Very good. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Pachariva.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I will be brief. I got so excited about our ward meeting that I forgot to mention that there is a farmers market that is currently going on down in the east end of town as well. Councillor Pachariva alluded to the BIA's one on Saturday, and you'll be happy to know this won't conflict because it's on Wednesday down at Boo's Bar and Eatery in the Butterballs Flea Market area there, and it's on Wednesdays from 4 to 8. So we're starting to see some folks coming in and some vendors with apples and we're starting to get some stuff happening down there, so it's pretty exciting to see that sort of taking off.
Well, we know the strawberries are pretty incredible this year, so I'm sure there'll be lots there. Councillor Pachuriva.
Yeah, just as a follow-up, Your Worship, to Councillor Ranjima's inquiry or definition of active transportation, it also involves any form of active transportation on water as well. We learned it's kayaking, paddle boat, canoeing, you name it. So any mode of active transportation, and the active being the person, is on the table. So it's just a whole gamut of things that people are doing, and we're looking for their input and getting some formality to a lot of the informal things that we have. So pretty excited. Councilor Bernay and I are pretty excited about this. So we will encourage you to come out, get active, and we're going to launch in due process a Ride with the Councillors in Ward 2. So be looking for that.
Okay. I think we're good. Thank you very much, councillors. We'll move on to item to the closed session. Yes. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Pachuriva, seconded by Councillor McMillan, that council adjourn to closed session in order to address personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee, a matter pertaining to the CAO work plan. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a continuation of our discussion at Committee of the Whole, where we, according to our procedure bylaw, we had to adjourn at 11 p.m. So we will be going to the Beamsville room, and the meeting is adjourned.